I'm just putting this on record. Okay. So we'll cover the Heartland Payroll with HR and HR on Demand. And as you probably are already aware of, what we talked about yesterday was our initial service offering when we first started selling payroll did not include any additional enhancements. And so what our service offering has now, since 2012 when we revamped everything and we built our own system, they added what is called an HRIS component. You familiar with have you heard the term Human Resource Information System before?
Yes, sir. It's kind of the go-to place for HR people, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's actually it's a buzzword for basically a tool for those HR people to capture information related to their employees, and in many cases incorporate that information into their payroll application. So they kind of work hand in hand, side by side. And HR is going to encompass anything from managing your employees effectively, protecting your business, so doing the right things to make sure that you're documenting things, you have the right things in writing to protect yourself from any type of unnecessary lawsuits or claims against the business that at the end of the day can really destroy people's businesses if they go in the wrong direction with the Department of Labor or the Equal Employment and Opportunity Commission. If they get the wrong type of claims against them and there's an audit that takes place and they don't have the right infrastructure to protect themselves, it could actually escalate to a point where they've got to close their doors. And our philosophy at Heartland is we really want to help them protect their business and stay long-term clients of Heartland for one thing, but also be in business and see their dreams pan out. A lot of these business owners, they get into what they're doing because they had a dream, right? So, they've always talked about opening up the bicycle shop or opening up their computer store or whatever it may be, and the day they do it, they obviously typically see them doing that for a long time. And you as an advisor to these business owners, the best intentions really would be to continually offer this type of service and recommend this type of service, because it doesn't matter how big or small you are, the Department of Labor can go after you. And one thing that comes up often, and it's a little bit different than the regular, criminal judicial system, would be, do you know who has the burden of proof when it comes to labor law? If the Department of Labor goes after you, Andy, and you're a business owner, and some employee says, hey, you know what, Andy's discriminated against me, or Andy promoted somebody, and I did much more work than that person did, and I think he's treating me unfairly. Do you know where the burden of proof lies?
With the business owner, they have to prove otherwise.
Exactly. They're literally guilty until proven innocent, yeah. And the only way to do that is to actually have infrastructure, things in writing, policies, and even more than that, having documentation that's been signed off and acknowledged by the employee. Because let's face it, you could have a policy in place, but if nobody knows about it, it doesn't do them any good. So getting those types of acknowledgement are key. So at the end of the day, we've actually designed a solution that is built for the small to mid-sized business, helps them do just that. It helps them manage their employees, protect their business, and also keep them in compliance with HR guidelines and federal and state labor laws. Really, really important. And you'll find that our service is extremely affordable as well as you start to actively market this in your area. So the way that we position this, you're going to see we've got marketing pieces and we've got different trainings that come out on our HR services, and they all fall into 4 key components. And I challenge you and encourage you to memorize these. It's going to help you in the field really categorize what the different benefits are and what they mean to a client. So the first benefit is my HR support center. We also have what's called our info center and my employee files and business partner reporting. And during this training, we're going to dive into each one of these separately so you can see what the benefits of each really are and what they mean to a client. But at the end of the day, what you're going to find when you are talking with prospects, they may gravitate heavily to one of these benefits. They may even say to you, hey, can I just get the info center and just pay for that, a la carte? And the answer is no. And the reason for that is it all works together, and they all incorporate information that rolls into the payroll system. So they get it all, but it's icing on the cake. So if somebody says, hey, Andy, I'm really interested in the info center aspect of the HR services, well, spend all your time there, sell them on that, and say, hey, and guess what? You've got all these other pieces that we can put in play and are available to you at any time at no additional charge. So you can kind of move on from there. But it's a nice four-way benefit opportunity for them. Have you seen any of these yet? I know you've probably looked at some marketing pieces and documents that we have. Does this look familiar at all to you?
Yes, sir. I'm beginning to get more familiar with all of them. Yes, sir.
That's good. That's good. Well, like I said, try to commit it to memory. Get these benefits down, and it'll really help you. The first thing we're going to talk about is the HR support center, and I put in brackets up there. You'll hear me say this numerous times, and again, this is also a really good way to express very easily what our service does, and it helps to manage a client's employees, protect their business, and keep them in compliance. And essentially, compliance means they are up to speed and have infrastructure in place to take care of HR rules and guidelines, as well as the federal and state labor laws. And the reality is every single piece of the HR system accomplishes those pieces in different ways. And even if you run into business owners that say, you know what, HR, that's just too much. That's just too much for me to even think about. I've never had to worry about HR. I don't have an HR person. I don't really need that stuff. Well, they do, but if they're not a believer in it, the one thing you will find most business owners have in common, and it doesn't matter how long they've run their business, they still struggle with managing their employees. So if you ever have to gravitate to one thing, it's, hey, we want to help you manage your employees and create an environment where you have employees that are working at the highest level of being at the highest level of being effective at their job. So that's a big thing, and that's typically what they're looking. How do I manage my employees so that they're doing the best thing for the business, the best thing for themselves? I have uniform guidelines that I can go by and back up to any employees that question it. And lastly, of course, the landmine that hits in the office where an employee walks in, because every single day is a surprise with employees. You never know what you're going to get. How do I handle the surprises that I then have to manage in my office with these employees? That could happen tomorrow or it could happen next week. So most business owners will relate to that. What the HR Support Center does is just that. It's actually a portal that is built into the payroll system. So when they click on one of the drop-down menus, they will be redirected to this portal. And the portal gives them the ability to access documents for hiring, customize those documents, any type of guidance or checklists or best practices when it comes to the entire employee life cycle. So you might be talking to a business owner that is hiring employees and they're getting ready to expand their business, or the very next appointment you have, you may be talking to a business that's really getting ready to restructure, maybe even downsize. Maybe they've got to talk about terminating some people. Or the next appointment in the day could be, I'm a business that is a mature business. We're really not in the place of hiring or termination, but we are really looking for best practices on how to do performance reviews, improve the effectiveness of their workplace environment, and that sort of thing. The HR Support Center provides guidance and support for all of that, and it's a big help for really any business that's out there. The other thing is there are handbook tools within the HR Support Center. Are you familiar with the value of a handbook, why it's so important?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's basically everything encompassing your business for your employees, and it's part of your defense in that situation if somebody were to challenge you for letting them go. That's right.
Very good. And you probably already got one for Heartland. Did you know that it's not a did you know that it's not a requirement? It's not a law that a business owner has to have a handbook.
Pretty much, it should be.
It should be, but it's interesting because it is it's up to the business owner. The reality is, if you go back to why a business owner would want a handbook, what it comes down to is that burden of proof. It's what you just said. It's the handbook is going to lay out all of the state-specific policies that need to be in writing. It has all the federal-specific policies that need to be in writing, and then it has anything else that the business owner wants to communicate, and it's clear and in writing. And at the end of the day, the employee is going to need to sign off on this handbook so that everybody's in agreement that, yes, I've received this handbook, I'm going to abide by what's in it. And that way, again, that burden of proof we talked about before, if something goes to court where, somebody's fired for something and it's clear in the handbook of, here's the policy related to why I fired this person, and that person signed off on it, and this is what we expect of all our employees, that employee that filed that lawsuit loses a lot of traction. So those handbooks, even though they're not required, like you said, it seems like it should be. But, it's, from an advising standpoint, you have the ability to say, hey, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, I know you don't have this in place. It's highly recommended, and here's why. And that's actually one of the very first things that we do with the client is we direct them to the handbook services and getting that started. So really important. The other thing is there's a built-in law library with access to federal and state labor laws. Now that can sound really unappealing. It's like, oh wow, I've got a law library that I can go and research. Well, there's not a whole lot of business owners that I know that have the time to go and research laws, right? But the real question is, when they read something in the newspaper or when they go to an association event or a networking event and one of their colleagues says, hey, did you hear about that new state law that it's going to impact a lot of the businesses in this area? And that business owner says, no, I don't know anything about that. Where do the business owners typically turn when they do need to find out something that they've heard in the market? Where do they typically go?
As far as like legal stuff?
No, just completely. If you owned a business and you went to a networking event and I said to you, hey, Andy, did you hear about that law about businesses that have over 5 employees now have to wear pink shirts to the office, and if they don't, there can be serious repercussions in the state of, in the state of Florida? Where would you go to find out the truth around that?
Either online or possibly even an attorney.
Yeah, exactly. So two extremes you just mentioned right there. You've got business owners that are going to say, "Oh, well, that seems ludicrous, but I'm going to go ahead and Google it and find out what the reality is." First of all, Google's probably your worst way to find out labor law information because there's way too much information out there. You don't know how current it is. We never recommend it. So you're not sure if you really got the right answer. But then the other side of the spectrum, like you said, is go to a labor law attorney. Well, that's going to be a little costly. You'll get the right answer, but it'll cost you. So the beauty about our law support, the law library and the federal and state laws, is that, for one, employers will always be able to get current and accurate information. So that's important when they want to know it. But what's even better than that, do you know when business owners typically find out they did something wrong?
After the fact.
Yeah, they get the notice in the mail. A person in a dark suit knocks on their door, handing them a piece of paper. Usually that paper has fines associated to it and threats. That's how they get the slap on the wrist and realize, wow, I didn't realize that law was in place, but I guess I now have to abide by it and pay the penalty for not knowing. What our service does is not only does it give them access to all the current laws that are in place, but anytime a law changes or is passed in their state or at a federal level, they will receive an alert associated to it. So they'll always be in the know. They'll never know after the fact. They'll know when it happens, which is really good news for any size business. The other parts of the HR Support Center is it has libraries of additional policies that maybe they want to add to a handbook that are specific to that client, job descriptions to really make clear what what the employees are doing on a regular basis and how they can do performance reviews around them, forms and templates such as current W-4 forms, current I-9 forms, any form you could think of would be available in the HR Support Center. In addition, there are even template letters, which kind of sounds silly, but it's kind of like what does a business owner do when they create a gosh, I can't even think of the word, an offer letter. What does a business owner do? Well, they typically craft it in a Word document. They think they've put everything in writing that they need to do, but they do it on their own accord, and it could be something in there that could bite them back. And so we've got all kinds of template letters that are for offer letters, for job candidate rejection letters, jury duty letters. All kinds of different things in there that they can use, and it saves them time, but it also, again, protects their business. So really good stuff. In addition, the HR Support Center also provides all kinds of education to the employer. So they're going to receive updates and newsletters on HR-related topics. There's also recorded trainings, both in video and audio form, on different topics like, workplace safety, or, what's the important points of an employee handbook, or effective performance reviews, all kinds of really good education that's built in there too. And the last part of this is an enhancement that when you start to sell this service, Andy, you're gonna see in Atlas when you create your proposal, you can choose two services. One is Heartland Payroll. The other one is Heartland Payroll with HR. If you select Heartland Payroll with HR, there's an additional enhancement that needs to be selected if you want to add on live support to the HR functionality, and it's called HR On Demand. Has anybody ever told you about HR On Demand, or are you familiar with it at all?
Yes, sir. Yeah, access to a certified HR specialist, right?
Exactly. And we encourage all spas to just automatically include that enhancement. Like when you're creating your proposal, just add it, because it adds so much value. And the reality is the business owner is probably going to use that HR on-demand person even more than what they would do in the HR support center to find things on their own. So it's a really important piece to keep in your solution. And this next slide talks about the three components of HR on demand. So HR on demand, like you said, SHRM certified. Typically, on average, they have about 15 years of industry experience in HR. They're state-specific representation. You can do what's called Ask the Pro, so anything a business owner wants to know. If they get, here's an example, they get a labor law alert that says, Affordable Care Act has changed again. Now, here are the new requirements. Well, when they receive that, if they don't understand what they have to do, they can call that HR on-demand person and say, I got this alert. I have no idea what it means to me. Help me out. They'll explain the whole thing, and that business owner will stay in compliance with what they're trying to do. They can also reach out about anything related to managing employees, protecting their business, and labor law guidelines. So I had an employee walk in the office today and really started to bully one of the other ones. And I don't know how to properly correct this scenario and protect myself doing it right, but also correct the action itself. They'll guide them through the steps to do to keep that business owner in the best way possible. And so Ask the Pro is really anything. Document customization, they can take anything and customize documents associated to those employees. So maybe it's a specialized job description. You know, we've got the job description in the HR support center. That library is pretty packed full of different options. But maybe you sign up a client that is some crazy nuclear physicist type company, and they've got positions that wouldn't be anywhere on the map, right? They could call HR on demand and say, hey, listen, I've got this new position. I really want to make sure everything's in writing. Can you work with me to customize a job description for this position? And they would do that, no problem. They can do that all day. And then lastly, the handbook development. This is really important that they do because they're doing it and they're the point person and building it for the client rather than the client doing it themselves, and that makes a big difference. So they can turn that handbook development around very quickly for them. Any questions on the support center or HR on demand?
So as far as handling the objection, a kind of a concise way to look at it is, of course, HR or payroll and HR versus payroll and HR with HR on demand. It would almost, what would you consider the proper way to position that? So maybe you could say someone, if they have time to do their own research, they have access to up-to-date information. If they want to have access to someone that can kind of do research it for them or help them with it, then that's when they would bring in the HR on demand professional. You kind of get what I'm trying to say there. I don't know.
Good question.
Not, but.
No, and this is why choices bring complication like that. So when we say to you, you can sell our HR services and then you can include the enhancement of HR on demand or you can leave it off. I wish it wasn't even a choice in Atlas. Like what I would love to program you to do, and I try to do this with all our spas, is don't overcomplicate it. Just always include it. Say, when you choose our HR services, you get the four key benefits, and part of the HR support center is the live consultation and support from our HR on demand team, and that way they don't even think anything of it, and it's really in the best interest of the client because they're actually getting live support because they're going, trust me, they will need it. As soon as they start getting into HR and HR-related questions, if they call Heartland's regular single point of contact, regular payroll specialist, they're not certified to provide that type of consultation. So they'll get frustrated, and then they'll find out, oh, well, I guess I do need that enhancement. How come, and they'll always say, I wasn't aware of that. Like, add that on, And so even though you said it to them, that's natural. I wasn't aware of that. So what I have seen as best practices, whenever you sell HR, just include it, because you'll see the impact to your margin is extremely minimal to add that service to it. And at the end of the day, your client will be happier and stay longer because of that additional value.
Exactly.
Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Good deal. Good deal. So we just encompasses or we just captured one key benefit of our HR solution. So you can see, you could sell that by itself and be done. People would gravitate and buy just for that type of HR support and infrastructure. But what's cool, the second benefit is what we call My Info Center. And you're going to see this much more in even more action when we do more of the deep dive next week. You probably have seen it on some of the demos that you've seen that Cleveland does on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2. The Info Center is a broad-based communication tool. It's essentially an intranet where the business owner can post anything onto the employee self-service so that the employees have access to whatever the business owner wants to communicate. So if you had this service and you were an employee for the company that you work for and you log into your employee self-service, you'll end up on the landing page. And the landing page is where it's almost like a news feed. If you could liken it to a news feed on LinkedIn or a news feed on Facebook, but it does even more things. So business owners will post current and important information right there on that landing page for their employees to see. So it's a great way to communicate. The other thing that it does is it builds in accountability for anything that the business owner wants to put in place. So if you create a new handbook that you want to roll out to your entire employee base and you want them to sign and acknowledge that they've received it and that they're going to read it and abide by those rules, on the landing page we can put an acknowledgement button on any document that the business owner wants to have that built-in accountability to. And it serves as a great way to track that information. And if ever there's a question, they can go back and they have hard copy reports that show this person acknowledged that they've read and understood, these specific documents. So it's a great way to roll out that information. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. And they can post anything. It doesn't have to be something HR related. It could be posting a message that this Friday is going to be Casual Friday, or I've seen some business owners get very creative with it. If they have a business that maybe they change procedures often for opening up the store or doing inventory, they could put those documents out so everybody sees it, and it's an easy way rather than what do business owners typically do to communicate to their employees? What's the go-to method to communicate to people these days?
Memos, or try to get a meeting that not everybody's at.
Yeah. One is time-consuming meetings. People are driving in. Not everybody can make it, like you say. What's another way, and you experienced this at Heartland, I'm sure already, how do people communicate and give information to you?
Either email.
Yes, number one way. And typically business owners are emailing the same information to the same people, and they're doing it multiple times, and then they're taking that same information and they're sending it to new people that come on board. And what this does is it gives them the ability to say, you know what, I know that this is important. I know everybody needs to see it. And I don't want to worry about emailing it and having employees say, oh, I never received it. This is a way that they can post that information and it's available to everybody, and there's no excuse for anyone not to have access to it. The other part of that info center is what we call the company information page. So the difference between the landing page and the company information page is the landing page is the immediate screen that an employee sees when they log into their employee self-service. The company information page is another link. It's another tab on the side of their employee self-service area that they can go to, where we help the business owner archive important information that just stays there for all employees to see. So what do you think all employees would need access to for the life of their career with an organization? Like, what are some things that would be important to always have access to?
Any of their, like, income statements or pay stubs or even, like, employee files. Maybe.
Yeah, and those, so that, I'm glad you mentioned that. So those would be specific to the employee, and they wouldn't want to make that available to everybody. And that is, it's perfect segue, because the next benefit we're going to talk about are the private areas that you can post information specific to that employee, including access to their pay stubs and that sort of thing. But what would be something that a business owner would want to put in place for everyone to have access to for the length of their time with the organization? Any ideas? Just wanted to see if you had any.
Like maybe attendance policies or vacation policies, that sort of thing. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, exactly. So the cool thing about the company information page is, for one, policies probably and hopefully they would build that into their handbook, and we can actually archive their handbook in the company information page so that anytime somebody new coming on board or any employee in the organization, anytime they want to access the handbook, it's always available to them. It's right there. And it's easy for that business owner to keep up to date, because anytime it changes and they update it through us, they can then repost it in that company information page. But it's always there. Another example would be, let's say a business offers health benefits. Well, where do the employees go to get all the forms, like enrollment forms or the benefit information for the company's plan? And this would impact all the employees. They can get it in the company information page. We can build out a special section to where those employees can log in, see their benefit information, download any forms they need. And this, again, is a great tool for the business owner, because they're not constantly emailing these things out to their employee base or keeping it in different areas that they've got to hand out. It's all in one spot. So it makes it very efficient and easy. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Cool. Okay. So perfect segue, what you said is, so My Info Center, that's the second benefit. So we got HR Support Center first benefit, My Info Center second benefit, and the key thing on My Info Center is this is a broad-based communication tool. So anything you do on the Info Center, everybody's going to see. The third benefit is My Employee Files, and this is a private area that the employer can build employee files specific to an individual. So they can build files and post things in that employee's area on performance review or track disciplinary action, any company assets that have been issued. Did we give them an iPad? Did we give them a cell phone? Did we issue a key to the front door? I mean, anything that they issue, they could put in company assets, so they're sure to get that information back. Any job instructions or certifications, awards, anything that they want to track on an individual basis can be built out in their files, and it's only the only way to access it is if the employer gives that employee access. So the other cool thing is the employer could say, okay, I want access to obviously 100% of the files I keep on Andy, but I want Andy to have access to his performance reviews and his job description and his job instructions. So that way, when I'm managing him, I can say, hey, listen, I want you to keep an eye on your performance reviews because we're doing this every 6 months, and we're going to see how you develop, and I want you to have access to what we talked about before. Or, your job description, I want to make sure that's handy and in your file, and you stay close to what I want you to do, because, the day that person gets fired, there's no question as to what they should have been doing. And again, really helps protect that business owner's business and helps to keep the efficiency of that employee on track. So really great things. And then the other thing about the employee files is it's safe, it's secure, and it's custom built based on what the employer wants. I think I mentioned yesterday to you, Andy, do you remember how many servers and how many time zones all the information is stored?
I don't think we did that yesterday.
Okay.
Maybe we did, but I don't think so.
No, that's okay. So you'll get asked this question, well, gosh, if I build out, so I've got a filing cabinet in my office, and if I convert this all to something that's housed in the web, what happens if Heartland goes down? Like, what happens to all my data? And what you can tell that person is, listen, all of our data is stored in servers that are in 3 different locations in 3 different time zones. So if for some reason you lose everything, we all have bigger problems to worry about. Like, there's nuclear war going on right now. So it's much more secure than having that filing cabinet in the office. It's also tamper-proof. You'll be signing up somebody on payroll, and I guarantee they'll be rifling around some steel filing cabinet that has a really poor lock on it that employees could tamper with and get access to really private, secure information that they want to make sure is really even off-site and protected, out of reach. So that's another important aspect of the employee files.
Certainly.
Any questions on that? Anything to clear up there?
No, it looks good.
Okay. Well, the last benefit, so we talked about My HR Support Center, My Info Center, and My Employee Files. Business partner reporting is the last but not least of the benefits. So business partners essentially mean CPAs, financial advisors, insurance agents, basically anybody that has a mutual relationship with that client. So it's really good if you're meeting with clients out there or prospects out there and they want to do business with you, it's really important to find out who also services their company. Who's your CPA, who's your insurance agent? And the reason for that is most times those industries need payroll information to do their job and to do it well. They will always have access. We can always give them access to payroll reports, payroll data, whether they're with our payroll service or with our payroll service and HR. What they get out of business partner reporting and the HR service is a way to use the system to benefit the way they service that client. So I'll give you an example. If I'm an insurance agent and I offer a benefit plan to that business that you signed up on HR service, I can post my benefits information in the company information area and have that always kept up to date so that the business owner doesn't have to worry about it. I'm posting current information. I can communicate to employees very easily just by using the same system that you sold to their client. And what that ultimately means is if you make it easy for them to use that same system that you sold to that client, they're more likely to open up a lot of referrals to you because they're going to say, wow, I benefit from my clients using this service. So why wouldn't I have more of my clients on it? So it's a really great way for them to, we can customize sections of the company information page. We can give them ways to communicate to the employees on the landing page. You can have a lot of really creative conversations around this with business partners that service potential clients for you. Does that make sense? I know that one's a little bit harder to grasp, but do you kind of get the concept around it?
No, yeah, definitely. I'd seen that first thing in the morning yesterday, and recognized it as a neat thing, but then reached out to my DM, and then we actually elaborated on it. It's an excellent way to continue building that network with those referral sources, and it helps us to continue to secure our business. It also helps them grow theirs as well. So I think that's certainly an important piece that I kind of thought, oh, well, that's nice that they can post something up there, but having that connection from day to day is kind of neat, because business companies, you'll hear, oh, we've got a 401k meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, or this is who does this, or this is who does that, or you might get a memo or maybe an email or something like that. But to have that there, I think is a crucial tool. So,
absolutely. No, you nailed it. I'm really glad you're already grasping that, because I can't tell you how often the value of that is missed. And next week, we're going to actually show you even more of how that looks, what that looks like, and how to really incorporate it, and how to even show it, effectively to those referral sources. Because at the end of the day, we know the referrals are going to be the most valuable, the most valuable opportunities. So the better we can equip you to approach those referral sources, show them why they would refer Andy versus Paychex or ADP or any of our other competitors. That's what we want to do. And so good. Well, that is really the overview of our HR package. Do you have any questions on anything that we went through on that?
No, I'm clear there. And then you kind of hit on this, but early on I was thinking, well, the HR support center, just kind of playing the other side of the table. A client or potential client might just say, well, I mean, that's great that you have that there, but I mean, why is that any different than me just jumping online and doing a little bit of research myself? And, obviously handling that objection, you said Google is great, but it's very dangerous. And it's funny you say that, because some of my previous positions, people will be like, oh, I saw on the internet this and this, and I was thinking, you need to stay off the internet if you believe everything you read. So for somebody to, there's this crazy stuff. So I think that's a important piece on handling that objection. Sure, it would seem like it would be fairly easy to just Google something and look something up, but how accurate, what kind of wacko has posted that up there?
Is it current?
You never know where that information is coming from. You know what it's kind of like? It kind of cracks me up that you bring this up. It's kind of like how doctors feel about Google. Somebody has like some sort of malady, whatever it is that's troubling them, and they go and Google it, and it's like, oh man, well, gee, it looks like no. Don't do it.
It's they feel the same way about it. So yeah, really good points there. Anything else?
No. It's good stuff. So
good deal.
Getting comfortable more and more each day. So
that's good. That's all it takes, step by step, day by day. And next week you will get even more comfortable. I mean, it's just the way that you'll evolve into the position and understanding your the different components. But I'll let you go, but next week we've got lined up Monday through Friday for you. Different trainings. There's going to be some Atlas training. Actually, no, not Monday through Friday. It's going to be Tuesday through Friday because of a holiday. But we'll have you tied into more Atlas training, more product training, and then at the end of the week, we'll start you with your demo account and get you certified to have your own demo account to use in the field. So, got a lot coming your way, Andy.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'll let you go and have a great rest of the day and a good weekend. If I don't talk to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Yes, thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.